Imagine someone walks up to you and says, "I know the cure for a terminal illness. It's free. It works every time. But you have to trust me completely." You'd want evidence, right? You'd ask, "Who are you? Why should I believe you? What makes your cure different from every other promise?" Christianity makes a claim just as bold, but instead of curing physical illness, it claims to cure mortality itself. Not just physical mortality, spiritual separation, moral brokenness, the kind of separation that starts the moment you realize you're not who you were meant to be. And the cure isn't a philosophy, it's a person, Jesus of Nazareth. But here's the question that matters. Why Jesus? Why not Buddha? Why not Muhammad? Why not just be a good person? Because Christianity doesn't offer advice, it offers rescue. And to understand why that matters, we need to get honest about the problem we're trying to solve. Let me steelman the objection first. I understand why people reject Christianity. I really do. You look at the world and you see hypocrisy, historical conflicts, contemporary scandals, judgmental Christians who claim moral superiority while living no differently than anyone else. You think, if Christianity were true, wouldn't Christians be better people? Wouldn't the world look different? That's a fair question. And honestly, it's one of the strongest arguments against the faith. But here's the thing. Christianity has never claimed that Christians are morally superior people. It claims the exact opposite. Christianity starts with a diagnosis that offends everyone. You are broken. I am broken. We are all morally flawed at the deepest level. Not broken like a car that needs an oil change. Broken like a compass that points south. Broken like a scale that's rigged. Broken in a way you can't fix yourself. And that diagnosis isn't popular, because we don't want to believe we're that far gone. We want to believe that if we just try harder, read more books, meditate more, vote for the right policies, we can fix ourselves. But Christianity says no, you can't. And that's precisely why you need Jesus. Now, let me explain why that diagnosis matters. Because without it, nothing else makes sense. Think about morality for a second. You believe some things are objectively wrong, right? Not just wrong for you, actually undeniably harmful. Historical atrocities, child harm, exploitation, assault, oppression. If someone said, well, those things were just culturally relative, you'd call them mistaken. You know they're wrong, objectively, universally, always. But where does that knowledge come from? If we're just atoms and evolution, why is anything objectively wrong? If morality is just a survival mechanism programmed by natural selection, then there's no such thing as harmful behavior. There's only behaviors that helped our ancestors reproduce. But you don't live like that. You act like moral truth is real. And Christianity explains why. Because you were created in the image of a moral God. You know right from wrong because morality isn't a human invention. It's a reflection of God's character. But here's the problem. Knowing what's right doesn't make you able to do it. You know you should love your enemies. You know you should forgive people who hurt you. You know you shouldn't deceive, gossip, or manipulate people to get what you want. But you do it anyway. We all do. And that gap between what you know you should be and what you actually are, that's the human condition. That's the brokenness Christianity is diagnosing. Now here's where most religions offer a solution. Try harder, follow these rules, do these good deeds, balance your karma, purify your soul. But Christianity says something radically different. It says, you can't fix yourself, you need someone else to fix you. And that someone is Jesus. But why Jesus specifically? What makes him different from every other religious figure in history? Here's the difference. Buddha offered enlightenment. Muhammad offered submission to God's law. Confucius offered ethical wisdom. But Jesus offered substitution. He didn't say, follow my teachings and you'll be saved. He said, I will take your place so you don't have to face consequences. And that changes everything. Think about it. If morality is real, then so is moral accountability. You've done things that are objectively wrong. So have I. We all have. And if God is perfectly just, then he can't simply ignore that. Justice demands accountability. But if God is also perfectly loving, he doesn't want you to face those consequences yourself. So what does he do? He takes them himself. That's the cross. Jesus, who is God in human form, takes the consequences you deserve so you can be forgiven. Not because you earned it, not because you're good enough, but because he loves you. And here's the question. Can you accept a God like that? If you were God, would you do something that costly for people who rejected you? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear your perspective on this. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds like emotional manipulation. You're trying to pressure me into believing, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm asking you to consider whether this explanation fits the evidence better than the alternatives. Christianity explains why you know right from wrong. It explains why you can't live up to your own moral standards. It explains why accountability is real, not just a psychological construct. And it offers the only solution that actually addresses the problem, not self-improvement, but rescue. Because you can't save yourself, you need a savior, and that's not a weakness, it's reality. Think about a drowning man. He's struggling in the water, trying desperately to keep his head above the surface. He's exhausted, his lungs are burning, he's going under. And someone on the shore yells, "Swim harder, you can do it, believe in yourself." That's not help, that's ineffective. What the drowning man needs is someone to jump in and pull him out. That's what Jesus does. He doesn't stand on the shore and yell instructions. He jumps in. He enters the human condition. He lives a perfect life. He faces the consequences we deserve, and he rises from the grave to prove that mortality doesn't have the final word. And when you trust in him, his righteousness becomes yours. Your accountability becomes his. Your mortality becomes his. His life becomes yours. That's the gospel. That's Christianity. Now, I'm not saying this solves every philosophical question. There are still mysteries. There are still hard questions about suffering, free will, and God's sovereignty. But of all the available answers to the human condition, Christianity is the only one that takes the problem seriously and offers a solution that actually works. Because every other worldview either denies the problem or offers a fix that doesn't address it. Atheism says there's no objective morality, so there's no problem to solve. But you don't live like that. Buddhism says the problem is desire, so eliminate desire. But that doesn't explain why you feel accountable for things you've actually done wrong. Islam says follow the law and hope Allah forgives you. But there's no guarantee, you're left uncertain. Only Christianity says the problem is real. You can't fix it. But I already did. And the proof isn't just philosophical, it's historical. Jesus didn't just teach, he rose from the grave. And if he did, then everything he said about himself is true. So the question isn't whether Christianity is emotionally satisfying. The question is whether it's true. Did Jesus rise from the grave? If he did, then he's who he claimed to be. And if he's who he claimed to be, then you need to respond to him. Not with intellectual agreement, not with cultural Christianity, but with trust. You stop trying to save yourself and you let him save you. That's what Christianity is. Not a religion, a rescue. So here's the question you have to answer. Are you drowning? And if you are, will you let Jesus pull you out? New videos every week examining questions like this. Subscribe if you want logic, not propaganda.